Well, hello and welcome to the studio. This week, we're going to work on getting some texture in our acrylic paintings. It kind of happened by accident. I'm trying to work on some techniques in getting my oil paints my acrylic paint to look more like my oil paint so that my work from my watercolors to my acrylic and my oils look cohesive. So grab something warm to drink and let's get into it. So this week we're going to work on getting texture into our acrylic paintings and make them feel more like oil painting. I don't know if you guys are like me, and I don't really particularly like the shiny look of acrylic. So I've been trying to work on maybe making them feel more like my oil paintings. And this is just a canvas that I just, a lot of times when I'm painting, I have another canvas next to me or a piece of paper, and I just wipe my brush on the canvas, and then that creates my first tone layer. So I had that canvas, and now I'm just adding some yellows, and when I wasn't really sure where I was going to be going with this. So I thought, well, I already have some blues and pinks, so maybe sunset. So I added some yellows. These layers are just very thin, very transparent. I don't really worry too much about getting the exact colors, just getting a color down, basically. Kind of covering up the tooth of that canvas, really. And then I think I end up going in with some green at the bottom. Yep. And at this point, I hadn't really thought about it, but I was like, this is feeling very spring. So apparently my paintings and the canvas is telling me, hey, spring is around the corner. So let's make it spring. Or so I thought. I also use a lot of gesso and is my mixer because gesso dries really matte, so that does also help with, you know, getting rid of that plastic look. And then with some teal and a little bit of ochre color. I think it was actually a yellow oxide. Just, I don't worry about if they're like totally mixed. I'll make sure that they get mixed on the canvas, and I don't really mind if there's like some yellow spots, creates interest. Believe me, you won't see this in the end. I'm still feeling sky, so I went in with a different blue. I don't know what color blue that one is. cerulean. And I let that first layer dry, and then I came in and just used what was on my palette, made it super light, and we're making the perspective of the sky now. It is a little bit green, but like I say, these are just the first layers, so I adjust as I go. And then this is where I was thinking, all right, let's get a palette knife out here and see if I can build up texture with like good thick paint. You know, I see a lot of oil painters doing this, and I thought that I could try to do that with acrylic. So I'm just trying to make some cloud shapes. That was with buff titanium. Now getting some nice bright white down. This white is a thicker white. It's a Master's Touch. It is pretty plasticky, so I thought that it would be really good to, you know, kind of like mix in with my other paints and make it really stiff, but like build it up. I have done some research. I think I'm gonna need something to, you know, like add volume to our paints, like a heavy gel medium. I think that was a heavy gel. I know it was a heavy something. Pretty sure it was a heavy gel. So I'm looking into that, see what's out there. Not having the, you know, supplies that I need, I'm pretty happy with how this has come out. So we'll see. We'll see if we do more of these. Now I'm getting some yellows in around the sun. I'm going to get some orange in there too and help create that glow. I'm keeping these layers really thin and building up the texture in like the clouds, and then later on you'll see we do it in the foreground, but mainly the texture was going to be the clouds at this point. That's a dagger brush. I really love that dagger brush. I can get it use it like a flat and then get the tip into some really small areas. I love a dagger. So at that point, when I finished up the sun, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be a nice field. I really was liking it, but I needed some dark in the front. And then I started building up the front with these dark areas, and I'm not really sure what happened, but it did not feel field-like. So we just go with it. At this point, I'm feeling that it's, a mountain view and a sunset, which is still very fine, but I'm still determined that I'm going to make it a field, I guess. I'm not sure why I try to force these things. It obviously doesn't work out, but I do end up bringing it back. So I'm thinking light leaves. This paint is so thin, but which is where that heavy medium will definitely bulk up the paints and make it so that I can work with it like that. But I don't have it right now, so I'm just seeing if this is even something that I like to do, if I like to paint this way. And at this point, I'm like, this is where I'm thinking, definitely a mountain view. So I went in and added some distant trees. And those are thicker marks, just to get a little bit of volume in the background. And then I scraped off those lighter green marks that I made, and I'm going in with the dark green again. There you go. You can see it better now. I mean, there's still the light green, but that's fine. I think that this will be a lot of knife work, painting, you know, with thicker paint. So I'm going to have to definitely get better with my knife skills, but just creating some limbs and whatever marks, make them look like trees, and get some of that texture in there. This paint is like this paint is super thick. I think it's just because it's older, but I'm trying to use up that kind of stuff in the studio before I start bringing in some new supplies. All right, this is a close-up in how it came out. Let me know what you guys think. It was a lot of fun anyway, and I'm glad that you spent your time with me today, and I hope that your paints flow with peace, and I'll see you next week in the studio.